Hey guys, welcome back to ArxangelRC. Today we're going to take a look at something very important for those of us who fly FPV but do not necessarily want or can use goggles all of the time. I'm talking about monitors, and in particular the Skyzone HD02 monitor. As usual, links are in the description below. Now, this is sold as a Skyzone product, although there is not one place on it that has the Skyzone logo or name. Unimportant really, as long as everything works as it should. I got the model with the DVR built in because I really needed something to record a higher quality footage than the one I'm currently using. In the nice smartphone-like box, you get the monitor with a pre-installed foldable hood, a 2S 2000 mAh battery, power cables, an audio video in-out cable, and two standard rubber duck 5.8 GHz antennas. Along the sides of the monitor you have the input and output ports, some indicator LEDs, control buttons, an integrated tripod mount which is super convenient, the power switch and the DC charge port, as well as the micro SD card slot. On the top you have the connectors for the antennas, and that's about it. Flip out the folding hood and it's pretty much ready to use. Powering it right away will not work, however. You would need to take the battery out of the box and put it in the back of the monitor, and then you can go ahead and power it on. Mounting the antennas is actually optional. This is not a transmitter after all. It does take its sweet time to boot up, but once it does, you're greeted by a super bright image that is very useful when you're outdoors, and especially when there is lots of sun. Now I'm going to power on this little bugger so we don't have to watch static while I show you around. Also, don't mind the weird looking colors on the screen right now. This is from the view angle of the recording camera relative to the monitor. In reality, the monitor is perfectly and evenly lit. Okay, moving on. The leftmost button is the auto channel scan. Press it once and the diversity receiver will start scanning channels, and when it finds a valid signal it will stop. You may need to press this button a few times before you get to your channel, because it will stop on every channel that is able to pick up the signal, even if it's not an exact match. I had to go through channels B3 and 5.8 before I got to A3, which is the channel I'm using. This really helps you learn the channel's codes. I don't want to be too boring here, so I would point you to the user manual that comes with the monitor. It actually describes the operation of the buttons pretty well. I'm just going to mention a few more things that I think are worth extra attention and clarification. From the diversity screen you can press the play button to go to either receiver A or receiver B, and another press will take you to the recorded video replay screen. To exit that you need to press the menu button once and then again the play button to cycle through the AV and HDMI inputs in order to get back to the diversity display. From that display, pressing the rightmost button, that one has a camera icon on it, will get you into the DVR display and will automatically start the DVR recording. Pressing it again will stop the recording, and pressing it yet again will start it back up. Once the recording has started, to get back to the diversity display you need to press the M button once and then the play button until you get to the diversity display. For everything else there is the manual. It's pretty well explained. Okay, let's go to the field now and see how this does. First thing I really noticed, and it felt great, was my posture while flying. Can you spot the difference? On the right is before, on the left is now. I felt really comfortable, and after 40 to 50 minutes of flight my back and neck were not hurting. I'm pretty sure that this problem is probably limited to me, but I'm so glad I will no longer be suffering during these flights. It was starting to take its toll. As for the monitor itself, the screen is very bright, but it is after all advertised as 600 candelas per square meter, which is one of the highest on the market, and especially for this price given the added features it has. A friend of mine has a more expensive monitor that is 700 candelas, but it doesn't have the diversity receiver, the integrated battery or the DVR functionality, so I'm pretty happy with this one. And the monitor is bright enough to be easily visible during the day without reflections becoming a problem. Now, I read around that the integrated battery was good for about 2 hours of working time, but with the DVR recording I'm seeing operating times around 1 hour, but can't say that this is much of an issue. The power cable has an XT60 connector on it, and I always keep a battery charged for such an occasion. And so we get to the other important feature for me, the DVR. My main problem with the DVR I was using until now was that it recorded the incoming video at a very low bit rate, making the video look very crappy. The old one is recording at around 1.7 megabits per second, whereas the monitor records the video at up to 7 megabits per second. So pretty much 4 times higher quality and 4 times more detail. And honestly, I see a huge difference. To drive my point home, here is footage from my current DVR, from my VR-D2 goggles, from an OTG video receiver connected to my phone, and finally from the Skyzone HD02 monitor. I don't know about you, but the recordings from the monitor and the goggles look the best. Surprisingly, the one from the smartphone is even lower in quality than the one from my old DVR, despite having more than twice the bitrate. I guess I don't use it often for a good reason. So the HD02 and the VR-D2 goggles are pretty close, with both recording at pretty much identical bit rates, but of course I find the monitor much more convenient for my type of flying. The goggles make me a bit dizzy and I can't wear them for longer than a race quad's 3 or 4 minutes of flight time. What really surprised me is how well the stock antennas were able to pick up the signal from my plane at a distance of over 3.5 kilometers. Yes, there is lots of static, but the signal was actually pretty good and I was perfectly able to see where I was going and to perfectly make out the OSD, just in case I had to make it back somehow without the tracker. Sadly, the integrated DVR cannot record from the AV input, which is a real pity because it probably would have taken very little effort to make that work, and at this point I don't feel like opening up the monitor to dig inside and try to make that work, and consequently risk ruining the whole thing. I will set up a wireless relay from my tracker in order to be able to record my flights in the higher bit rate, so fingers crossed, expect some higher quality OSD footage in the very near future, Banggood shipping times permitting of course, as I need one of those 0.01 milliwatt output video transmitters they have, and we'll have to wait for it to arrive now. So I think I've covered the important bits on this monitor. If you have any questions about it, please leave a comment below or contact me on Facebook and I will try to answer as best as I can. If you have liked this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already. And as usual, if you fancy any of the items featured in this video, please consider buying them via the links in the description below, as this will go a long way towards supporting this channel. I wish you happy flying now, and I will see you next time.